Everybody thinks when the mark of the beast happens, I'm just going to go live out in the land, and get away from society. Well, the government's already thought of that, dude. That's why they're spraying Roundup in the waterways. Look at Lake Caddo. Look at all these rivers and streams. Brothers, sisters, there's not going to be no land to live off of. They're using this modified weather to flood everywhere, and if they can't flood it, they're going to burn it. And then any waterway that's left, they're going to spray with Roundup. Look at Lake Caddo in Texas. That's right, in Lake Caddo, they're pumping Roundup into the water. People eat the fish out of there, so they're already killing people in Lake Caddo. But what this is all about, this is getting it to where the people who do not take the mark of the beast, you won't have no land to live off of, bro. They're going to burn it, flood it, or fill it up with glyphosate. That's right. They're putting Roundup. Our government's putting Roundup in Lake Caddo. You can Google it, and it'll literally tell you, bro. It ain't a conspiracy. They're doing this because they know the big crash comes in a couple years. They're going to do the big crash, and they're going to try to switch us over to digital currency, and then you got to take the mark. Well, guess what? There ain't going to be no woods to run to. They're going to have burned them all, flooded them all, or poisoned them all by then. I'm just telling you the truth that's coming. So be ready for a shootout any day. And because that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to run from the evil government that tries to put a chip in us. I'm going to just stand my ground and shoot out. There's nowhere to run. They poisoned the waterways, dude. So get ready to fight. God bless y'all.
All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today, I just want to do a quick video. I came across earlier. You have this guy, his Instagram, he goes about Thug Nasty, but, Bryce Mitchell, he's a UFC fighter, and he pretty much made, a profound statement, that once, the mark of the beast comes out, that, he's gonna fight back, which ultimately, there's nothing that we can carnally do to try to come up against, Esau Edom because of, the weaponry and technology that he possesses, that, a standard firearm isn't going to be able to stop, But again, man, he knows what the UFC is, not the UFC, Slocky. He knows what the mark of the beast is, Excuse me, and yet, you have the leaders of different Israelite groups that are still telling their congregation that the mark of the beast is anything other than what it actually is, which is the RFID microchip. So I'm just going to bring out a couple of scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point, and he knows what it is, man. At this point in time that we're in, it should be common knowledge, what the mark of the beast is, man. Even people that aren't heavy into the scriptures, they have an idea of what it is, which a lot of people, even if they know what it is, they're still going to get it, and they're going to have those that don't get it, which, the elect of the nation of Israel, they're not going to get it, and, you may even have a few people, people in the Bible Belt, those people down south, as the Apostle Tahar says, those Bible thumpers down south, they're not going, man, because at the end of the day, anyone in their right mind should never want not a piece, but a microchip implanted into them, man, because if you accept that device, you are pledging your allegiance to, Esau, Edom, the elites in particular. You're pretty much proclaiming them to be your God instead of, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, which is crazy, but that's what the majority of people in the world are going to do, especially here in America. This is why they're getting these, digital infrastructure set up. This is why damn near everything, we pay for is all digital. Cash is being phased out, And I looked up some information, which I'm going to bring out in a separate video, because it's relevant to today. This is why America and ancient Rome are so similar. And one thing I looked up is that, one thing was the reason that ancient Rome failed was because of its financial system. You know, their currency was weak. You know, they stopped using, matter of fact, let me just grab it real quick. Because this is the time that we're in right now, man, and it's getting real. So real quick, and I asked ChatGPT, I said, how did the Roman financial system collapse? So it says the collapse of the Roman financial system was not a single event, but a long breakdown of monetary stability, which is what we're seeing right now with America. It says state revenue and market confidence. It unfolded over centuries and differed between the Western Roman Empire, which fell in 476 CE, and the Roman Empire, which survived much longer. It says, and it gives the no example below, but this is the main one right here. One, and it says currency debasement, the core problem, and this very same thing is happening right now in America. Currency debasement. It says Rome's money was originally strong. Gold aureus, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, gold aureus or aureus and silver denarius coins with high precious metal content. But by the 3rd century CE, emperors repeatedly reduced the silver content of coins, mostly to pay for huge military payrolls, expanding bureaucracy, inflationary spending. And isn't this not what America is doing? Military spending, inflationary spending, these different things, right? It says the silver denarius went from 95% silver 1st century, less than 2% silver by the late 3rd century. And again, you can see that with the current coinage here in the U.S. The coins, I'll take quarters, for instance, they used to be, a certain percentage of silver. Now, is less and less, silver, and it says the result, coins lost value. And again, that's what is happening here in America. Coins, not just coins, even the dollar, is losing value. It says prices rose rapidly. Again, inflation. Are we not suffering from inflation here in America? It says people stop trusting coinage. And again, eventually that's going to be the case here in America. People are going to stop trusting a dollar. This is why these different nations are backing away from the U.S. dollar, because it's not backed by anything, because it used to be backed by, gold. Now it's not backed by anything, which gold and silver is real money. It says barter increased. This was one of the earliest large-scale monetary inflations in the world until now, because right now America is about to suffer, that hyperinflation. Right now we're suffering from inflation, and eventually it's going to be hyperinflation, especially with, these food stamps and different things being shut off, man. Things are going to become more and more difficult, And again, just to kind of, backtrack a little bit, because Trump, or number 47, says he wants to stop using coins because after a while, I forget how long, if they didn't do it already, he wants to pretty much do away with pennies. He doesn't want to use those anymore. Then eventually it'll be dimes, then nickels, then quarters, then no coin usage whatsoever. Then you can only use a dollar. Then eventually after the dollar, is deemed completely worthless, then they're going to bring that chip, once the system completely collapses. And that's going to be the end result, man. If you want to be able to live in the current world to come, the current society, or it's like the next world to come, that next society, that fourth industrial age, man, to be a part of these smart cities, you're going to have that microchip, and it doesn't matter where you get it, but the primary places are going to be either in your hand or in your head, man. Excuse me, Slakia. And the people, people that have, disabilities, people that may be paraplegic, they're going to be the ones to get it in their head. Take, the Neuralink, because you already have people that have the brain chip, man. So they're going to market it as if it's something that is needed or something that's cool. Right now, it's optional to get it, but eventually it'll be mandatory. Just like when the Juicy Juice came out, people were, they had to face their choice. Hey, either get the the shot, or lose your job. And eventually that's going to become a reality for all of us. Either get this chip, lose your home, which we're going to lose everything anyway, but, lose your home, lose your vehicle, you won't be able to work, you won't be able to eat, you will be completely shut out of society, but what, those of us that trust in the Lord, Lord willing, we be of the elect, the Lord is going to take care of us. But what? The American people, it's like the American people are going to fold, which is why the majority of them are going to end up getting it and being destroyed, So, Slakia for the rant, but this is the time that we're in, and this thing is upon us, it's right at the door. So I'm going to get the book of Revelation chapter 13, and I'm going to start at verse 15. And it says, "And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed and right." And this is what the elites are going to seek to do. Those that don't want to receive, the mark of the beast, they're going to seek to take them out, and what's going to be their primary way, by beheading them, and pursuant to Revelation 20:4, some of the elect will be beheaded. It comes with the territory, man. This is why it also says, to count the cost, because again, there's a high chance that some of us are going to lose our lives, man, that we will be beheaded. But those that do lose their lives, they're going to be their testimony, they'll be dying an honorable death, because they endure it to the end, just like it also says, they love not their lives unto death, and we're hoping to be those men, whether we have to lose our lives or if we actually make it, until our Lord Yahweh Shah returns to, deliver us, Lord willing, Verse 16, and it says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads," right? The right hand, it can be in either hand, either right hand or left hand. It's just, right hand is just representing, your dominant hand, whether whichever, your right hand or your left hand, but it's either going to go in your hand or in your head, man. Verse 17, "And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name." Slakia, and you won't be able to buy and sell unless you have this device. You can't buy and sell with sin. You can't buy and sell with sleeping with white women or sin in all its forms. Slakia, or an embargo. Whatever else, these guys are saying the mark of the beast is, other than it being, a microchip. Because that's what it is. That's It's lucky that's the only way you're going to be able to survive in these 15-minute cities unless you have that device, man, which is not going to be good, man. The people that get it, their lives are going to be hell, you know, because our lives are hell now. But hell, man, it's going to be even worse, you know, because they're going to be able to completely control you. You know, remember, Esau, Edom has a God complex, man. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to be like the Most High. So here's the reason why they want to be all knowing, you know, all seeing. They want to, you know, keep track of what everyone is doing at all times, you know. In verse 18, it says, "Here's wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beasts, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, which goes back to the UPC code. You know, the first bar is a 6, the middle bar is a 6, and the last bar is a 6. You know, everything Esau Edom does goes back to the number 6, you know. And that's what it is. You know, in order for you to be able to survive in this society, you know, you're going to have to get that. But again, the elect and, you know, a few individuals out there, they're not going to get it, man, because again, once this thing is made mandatory, survival will not be easy, you know, because again, I myself, I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how to hunt, you know, I know how to fish a little bit, you know, but I don't know how to start a fire, you know, from scratch, man. You know, trying to live out in the woods is not an easy task, man. Being out in the wilderness is not easy. You know, this is why we're going to need the Lord, you know, to deliver us, you know, because it's going to be extremely difficult once this thing gets rolling and it gets made mandatory, you know. And then again, you other groups are going to have to explain this as well. That's the book of Revelation, chapter 16 and verse 2. And it says, "And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which had worshipped his image." And right, man, those that receive the mark of the beast are going to get that grievous sore, which is what? Cancer, you know, because that device is going to be emitting radiation, you know, because it's going to be running off of that individual's body heat, you know. So we'll see exactly how it plays out, but you're going to know who has the mark of the beast because they're going to have that grievous sore, you know. And another thing, you know, these different groups aren't going into is, you know, those that get the mark of the beast and what their judgment is going to be, you know. So I'm going to end it with this. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 14 and verse 9. And as you can see, the head Slakia. The subtitle reads, "Doom for worshippers of the beast." So right, those that receive the mark of the beast, they're doomed. This is Revelation chapter 14 and verse 9. "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they shall have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name." And right, that's just going into those that receive the mark of the beast, you know, they're going to be burned up by way of the nuclear missiles, you know, because once those missiles hit America, this place is going to be completely engulfed in flames, you know, because that's going to be the judgment of this place, man. They're going to be burned up. That's why it says, you know, the smoke of their torment sitteth up forever and ever. Now, this is not talking about, you know, hell, that place underground that's burning with fire. No, that's Greek mythology, you know. And it says the smoke goeth up forever and ever. Just, you know, it's going to be a period of time, because this place is going to be burning for a while. That's the smoke of their torment that goes up. And when it says, they're going to be tormented in the presence of the Lord and the holy angels, again, it's not talking about hell, man, but, you people that get the mark of the beast are going to be burned up before the Lord. The angels and the elect will be able to see it, from the chariot or chariots, we'll see, but yeah, man, the mark of the beast is here, but we'll just have to wait and see how exactly it's going to be implemented. We know that this thing is going to take place very soon, man, because they're getting things ready for these smart cities, and if, a guy like this, a UFC fighter, knows what the mark of the beast is, then how much more you guys in these different camps, because pretty soon people are going to have questions, so either, admit you were wrong, repent, and tell them what it really is, or, don't. And, those individuals' blood is on your hand, and it's going to be required. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give our praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till the next time I say, Shalom.